Hello and welcome to the Friday wrap up here on Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is March 21st, 2025, and we are on the other side of the triple witching, which isn't something that I often bring up, but became a bit of a relevant topic of conversation. And then somebody that I actually really look up to in the space brought it up in a post, so I had shared it and then talked a little bit about it in a few spaces fairly recently. So we're going to go and take a look at what has occurred post options expiration in markets, and we'll kind of see what price action is looking like over there as we are coming out of the expiration into a position rollover in kind of the final week or so of the quarter here. And next week is going to be filled with looking at a little bit more of the macro as we run into the end of the month, as we are in the Q1 to Q2 transition phase. So let's go ahead and take a look at where Bitcoin is, though. First here, we will take a look very quickly at Ethereum and Solana, but we are, of course, going to focus on Bitcoin as it is the market leader, and I am Bitcoin first. Now, Bitcoin did have a high put in on a swing basis on Thursday. Friday candle was a bit indecisive here. That's that little tiny doji here. But, we did still get a trend break and a trend break on higher lows. So we have a trend break of 85,318. We have a higher low swing and low set at 81,125. And now we have a higher high. So we have a trend reversal setup. It is two parts of a four-part full trend in this case. And what we're looking for now is closes above around 87.5 when relating this back to trend. So closes back above the upper first here of the Bollinger Band set, which is coming in right around that 87.5, coming in just shy of 87,400. If price did move above the basis band, then I would be looking for that upper first and that high to get tested around 87.5, and then start testing, obviously that's right around this close open here, this little bit of a sideways consolidation before this higher low at 88,700 came in. Now, this is the bottom side of the support and resistance area overhead. Prior supports as a zone. Now, likely when Bitcoin gets there will be prior resistance. Just shy of that $89,000 here on this swing low. Of course, we saw the breakdown. There is some important things to pay attention to here. Bitcoin is closing back below the basis band and is trading back below the basis band, so it's in the bearish half of the bands. That does increase the likelihood that it could test down where this higher low is by this lower first standard deviation. Now, the higher low is actually coming in at that 81,125. I would consider this bottom side area in terms of fair game. I'd consider it like 80 to 82. Now, right here, we also have the close opens at 82.5. So pay attention to those in lower term timeframes if price does dip down here, and then start looking at this swing low. Anywhere below this swing low and the close open just below it, you can call it 81K. I would be looking for Bitcoin to retest somewhere around the wick low and close open lows here, which is just shy of the lower second. You can call it basically $78,000, and you're going to see why in just a moment. I think that that's going to be a very important and vital area to watch should Bitcoin get there. And let's go ahead and turn on support and resistance real quick. We're going to go with the local stuff here. And we have the $85,000 kind of inflection point right around where we saw the trend break occur. So we saw the lower high here, higher low, trend break. So, trend reversal setup in play. And you can see that we have the lower second standard deviation right around this 78.5 and this $78,000 low here. Now, granted, this is slightly above $78,000. It's at 78,167. If we do see price trade down below 81 to 81,125 at this higher low swing, I would be cognizant that kind of playing in between 80 and an $80,000 target would be, roughly right around this swing low. So 80 to 82 is kind of the zone to play in between this, this close open here and this swing low, likely making a lower low than this higher low swing, is more probable than not the longer that Bitcoin trades below the basis. If it does start to lose 80, then we're looking down essentially to the lows here. And that's going to be roughly around 78.5, 78,550 to the actual low swing here on spot at 76,555. Anywhere below there, I'm looking for the last year's big consolidation high side structure to get tested, somewhere around that 73,835, 74K. If it is just going to be a wick to this $68,000. And this is a big weekly level. If we do see price dropping through here, I'll update either on the timeline or in video format some of the more important daily areas to pay attention to in terms of swings in here, like this swing at the double swings here, this double top on a swing basis at 72. And then we've got, of course, $70,000 right on the dot here. So there is areas of interest within this weekly structure, but it's essentially the high side weekly structure between 73,835 to 68,244 that is going to be fair game. Should we see 76,555 dropped, even I would say on a lower term time frame basis, relative to the daily, back above $85,000 and the daily basis band, which is now sitting below at 84.5, so 84.5 to $85,000, back above there. Again, that's where I'd be looking for continuation past this high. We could see a low set on any closes above the Friday high. Of course, it's still Friday for me. Saturday session is open, 84,800. So anywhere above there, so basically above $85,000, we would see another higher low swing set and a higher low close. And then, of course, natural area to look is right overhead here by that upper first and this high at 87.5 to the 1.168 at 88,700. You can call it $89,000 if you like, to around that 92. Anywhere above there, pay very, very close attention to this weekly higher low close open. This is the last closing higher low that we had on the weekly at 93.5. That's going to be big. And of course, above there, $95,000 to $96,000, which is right where we saw this move originate from on the breakdown. So that's going to be what I'm going to be watching for here on the daily. Let's go ahead and take a look at a few other things on the daily, and then we're going to look at some of the longer term time frames, specifically the 4 and 5 day, as they did just get their close with the Friday candle, I believe. I think that's what we were waiting for, right? And we'll see where things are. Could there be some potential confluence if Bitcoin did run the lows? Yes, the bearish control zone, or the edge of the bearish control zone, is right there at 78,274. We have that big swing low that has not been closed below at that 78,167, right? Or something like that. I think it's 167 or something like that. So this edge of the bearish control zone is right around that area, which is also the closing lower low down there. So $78,000 would be in play from that perspective as well, and could still be potentially building a lot of bullish divergence off of that initial swing down there. This is that $78,000 swing low to close, which is all the way up here at 84,300. So kind of right around where Bitcoin is trading now. In terms of momentum, we still have upside on momentum above 81,121. So that's good for the moment. We'll see how that lasts throughout the weekend. And let's go look at some of the higher term time frame stuff. All right, 2-day. We'll have closing. This is, of course, the Saturday session. We'll have this closing with the weekly. 3-day. We're going to have closing with the Saturday candle. Let's go ahead and take a look at the 2-day. I'm not going to dive too deep into the 2-day here. Could there be the potential? Nope. It's just that one drive. Momentum is up above 80,800. It's basically $81,000. 3-day is going to be 83,600. And, the low is set. There is no bullish divergence here just yet, so it's just momentum, and it is just another low in a downtrend. Lower low swing, lower low close there. Let's go ahead and take a look at that 4-day because we were waiting for that. That is now, we do have the new 4-day session open. Not too much to make of it here. $86,000 is the pivot to close above in the next 4-day candle. And, the confluent areas to pay attention to, 85.5 right overhead at the lower first to this basis band at right around $93,000, just shy of that weekly close open there at 93.5. So, it's something to pay attention to. Again, this is still an expansive move down. It's not as aggressive anymore, so mean reversion is fully in play. And realistically, Bitcoin has to reclaim that weekly. And when we take a look at the weekly here in a moment, I'll show you that weekly close open. 5-day, of course, is now open. So we have a new 5-day open. Let's see what the pivot's going to be. It's going to be $83,000. So the 5-day being a little bit kinder to the bulls than the 4-day here in this case. And I would actually put a little bit more weight on this 5-day. Nice retest of that lower second, test up towards the upper first. Now the upper first has moved down to $87,000. And the basis band is at, what are we looking at here for the basis band? $94,000. So just skating right across the swing lows of this little sideways consolidation before the expansive move down. And in this case, still bearish below there. Do we have anything? Yeah, actually, the upper first is skating right across that 101, which in the range up there is a daily area of interest where the 5-day upper first is, and even the 5-day upper second, honestly. See that basis coming in just on the top side of that weekly higher low close open. We'll talk about that. And we might want to note that the 5-day close open is right here at, we got 92,620. Which on the daily 92,800 is one of the lower highs that needs to be recovered above, and swiftly, in my opinion. I would like to see it sooner rather than later if the bulls are going to start to take control of price action. But the upper first standard deviation is right around 101 up here. Upper second is right around the all-time the swing high here that hasn't been closed above. Did get wicked above to 109,360, but the real big powerful swing up here is right around that upper second. So kind of bracketing the top side bands for volatility, 101 to essentially 108 up there. So it's going to be more about the pivot for the next 5-day that I would like to see turn with some constructive uptrending structure continuing to be in play, or at least another drive of bullish divergence if Bitcoin does head down on the daily. So again, watch 83 and let's see, weekly. Let's go ahead and get rid of, well, actually we can keep the weekly on here just for a moment. And what do we want to see on the weekly? We want to see a low set on closes above 85,318. That would set this as a low. And of course, it would be a lower low. But in the context of where it could get some continuation drives of bullish divergence, it would start to get some from the structure, the accumulation structure from last year. So we could see some continuation drives of bullish divergence in that regard. It just wouldn't be in this context of this current trend. As this is, a downtrend on a close, and it is a deviation of trend on a swing, because with the last real big swing was a higher high, and this is a lower low. So it is just a deviation of trend on a swing, but it is a trend reversal setup on the closing on a closing basis here, with the close being a lower high close to a lower low close, which means consolidation or compression, and we're continuing to see that on the bands here. I'll turn on the support resistance in just a moment, but Closes above 85,318, 85,320, if you will, would set the low. But realistically, we want to see closes back above that lower first, which is at 87,268 right now, to go test the basis, which is just shy of $95,000, coming in at 94,231 in this case. Likely going to start to roll up and maybe flatten out around 95, or maybe even right here if Bitcoin does close below this lower first. We shall see. Kind of the angle that it's at, I think it does close around 95, which is essentially that breakdown period, breakdown point right here, around that 95 to 96. So now, in terms of momentum pivots, Bitcoin is heading up while the momentum is heading down still. So it is still downside pressure below $96,000, which I have noted is one of the key areas, of course, that we saw the compression to breakdown. I talked about this on Monday, and I think I might have touched on it on Wednesday. I don't quite remember. But upper first up here, right at that 101. Upper second is right at the highs here at that 108, essentially. So, we have confluence between the weekly and 5-day. They're not going to be too much different in terms of Bollinger Band look, but the 5-day can be a leading indicator as to what we see play out on the weekly. If we do see a low set this week, say we get a Sunday close above 85.3 or whatever it is, 85.320, I would be on the lookout for what that momentum pivot updates to. So, it could come down pretty aggressively, because if it's reading 96, it's essentially reading this area because it is lagging. What I would expect it to is to start to read somewhere within this this big breakdown candle. So on a close, at least. And we'll kind of come back to it from there. Now, let's go ahead and turn this off. Let's go ahead and follow up with my thoughts on Ethereum. Let's go to the daily, and let's just take a quick look here. I want to see momentum first, actually. 1862 and 1862 is going to be right around this low here. So we did get a low set and, a kind of lower high to a higher low to higher high. It's a little bit of a trend break. You could call it that, I guess, but it's more, this is just one big low. And it looks as though, it's on the verge of setting at minimum a lower, it's already set a lower swing high up here. Could it turn this around and break back to that 2100 to 2300? And of course, get above that wick high at 2320. That's, the setup that is in play right now. But if it does break down, below 1936, which was the Friday candle, I would look to the lower first, somewhere around this area at the, the upper 1800s to 1900 area, 1890 here in this case. Testing maybe even the bottom side here around this 1886. If it does drop that, it's headed back to test the actual lows here, including all the way down to where the 1789 to 1767 lower second is down here. Closes above 2K, going to look better than not. Of course, get back above the basis band at $2,012 and start heading up to that 2100 where the lower first is starting to come into play. We're getting the bands kind of in between levels here, but again, not much going on below 2300 and 2320 at this lower high up here. But if it can break above $2,070 here at this this high, then I would be looking for 2100 to 2300 as a test and go for that 2320 break. Of course, I've mentioned this before, the Twin Tower candle highs need to be taken out at 2551. What is the 5-day looking like here? Oof. Oh, this is still expansion, 92 over 91. It's getting close, but 1981 would turn Stoke, but obviously the last lower highs all the way up here at 25,855 for the 5 days. So it's got a lot of work to do, and it's got a major level of support that it's broken down from, dating back to December of 23 here that it broke down from. So I would be aware of bearish retests in this area, but above there, it's got room to run between the two levels here at essentially 2,300 to 2,700, and then try for a break of this area and then get above essentially $3,000. That would look really good, and would offer up a lot of excitement, I think. Especially turning some things around on the longer term time frames. Same areas on the weekly. Needs to close above 2152 to actually set a low from here. Otherwise, it's just continuation down. Lower second slightly above that 1789 area, which is the initial downside supports for this zone. And this is a bigger weekly zone to kind of pay attention to. It's a big rejective zone that we have seen act as supports, and then we had some price action in there that is identified as well. But what would it take for the weekly to turn? 2,300. That's right. That's right. It's the top side of the red zone there. So keep an eye on that. Essentially, if you start seeing it trade above $2,000, look for closes above that 2,070 towards 2,100. That would be constructive price action to go test this red zone. Anywhere below there, it's still biased to the downside. That's kind of my take on price action for ETH. Let's look at Solana. Solana's trying desperately to hold this level and a close open. It's a key level of support right around this swing high here at, this is going to be our 125, almost 126 on the close open here. Really clean close open, needs to close above 136. And then it's got a wide zone to work in. Needs to recover around that 160 on the weekly to go test 169. Nice. Now, for Solana, I'm going to warn all my soul bros. You need to understand this is just the trend break. And for this just to turn into a deviation, it's got to get above the all-time high. So even if it does put in a low here, I'm expecting lower highs. And then we look back to this low to see if it holds, and then seeing that, then see the lower high break. Is it possible that that just turns this into a trend deviation and just runs the all-time high? Sure, that is very possible, but it's not very constructive. Okay, I'd rather see this bounce up to a lower high. It's been a long week. My voice is failing me at this point, so I do apologize. Could it bounce up to a lower high, even aggressively to like $200? It's absolutely possible, right? But I need to see compression. I wouldn't want to see this run right from the lows here, right back to its all-time high. With bands expanded like this, it would very likely be a massive rejection. So more constructive price action if it puts in the, if it could put in this low here, essentially closing above this high at 136, 137 area, and start testing up towards the this side here at that 170, 160, 170 area. And even if it rejected and put in a lower high, then we can entertain higher low equal low structure as it relates to this low, and then compression that can possibly get back into this zone, or even if it bounces aggressively into the zone to 200 and holds this area, right? So it's going to take a little while, in my opinion, for a healthy price to be constructed, a healthy price action to be constructed in terms of developing a nice uptrend. So I just wanted to point that out because I did get some questions about that. It's like, well, I mean, it is a lower low on the weekly, but it could easily take out its all-time high. Sure. But from a technical point of view, it's most likely, from its current position, would be a nasty rejection. Fun run, probably, but it would be a nasty rejection. Then you're looking at a much bigger consolidation. You'd rather see this thing come up, get a lower high, come down and make a higher low equal low, and then go up and take out that lower high, get a trend break, trend reversal set up, build that constructive compression to re-expansion. That would look really good. Let's just double check on that weekly again for you. and that's going to be 150 is the pivot. So as that relates to the daily, daily is in a sideways consolidation. It hit all of the areas that I talked about previously, higher low to a bit of a lower high here, and then right back to test the supports here at 125 and a little bit under. Look, it needs to crack above 136.71. That is, of course, what we were just talking about in the weekly, and then it's probably good to test up further. It might take a little while. It might even compress a little bit more, even if it goes to test like 150, which is that weekly pivot, lining up with this daily kind of really nasty price action with Twin Towers all the way up into the 180 region. Holy crap, man. What a goofy looking set of circumstances going on here. It was probably going to head up anyway, but with the tweets, it was immediately head up, exit, get exit liquidity and then head down, right? It's very, very much exacerbated the move that was already kind of presenting itself as a bounce into a massive, massive run up to run back down. That's kind of all I got for you today. We're going to end this off with Bitcoin again. You want to see it closing above 85, specifically 85,320. And then, get moving on back to the upside. Test some of this overhead resistance now. And otherwise, it's playing in the weak half of the bands. Could retest the lows. I wouldn't be scared if it did. If you're bullish, please don't get scared. If you're bullish, you want cheaper sats anyway. But it's kind of one of those situations where even if it did retest the lows, maybe even lower, then we finally get a tap on that range, call it a retest and freaking go. And then that would be nice to see. But, realistically, it's just floating in between macro support and macro resistance. So not too much to talk about until we see how the monthly closes, and we're going to be talking all about that next week. So you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe, and of course, as always, stay safe. Have a wonderful weekend. I will talk to you soon. And with all of that said, Landy out. Take care.